They say the quietest towns hide the darkest secrets. Pine Hollow, a place where the wind whispers, the trees watch, and the shadows have teeth. It started as a simple trip. Just a few friends, some old cabins, and a weekend in the woods. But what we found was something older, something hungry, something that shouldn't exist. By the time we realized we were being hunted, it was already too late. Every corner we turned, he was there. Every shadow that moved, he was watching. And somewhere, in the darkness, he was keeping the ones we loved, just out of reach. Stay with me, if you dare, because the story you're about to hear will make you question every quiet town, every dark forest, every whisper you think you ignored. And tonight, you might just hear him watching you. If you've ever driven deep into the rural backroads of America, past the old barns collapsing into fields, past the long stretches of pine trees that swallow the sunlight whole, you'll understand the kind of silence I'm talking about. A silence that doesn't feel empty. A silence that feels like it's watching. That's where our trip began. Me, Hannah, Lila, Marcus, Ben, and Tori, 6 friends who'd known each other since high school, had decided to take a weekend retreat before winter rolled in. We'd been planning it for months. We wanted something peaceful, cheap, and far away from the noise of the city. So when Hannah found a rustic lakeside lodge on a booking site, Pine Hollow Retreat, with a price so low it almost looked like a typo, we booked it instantly. It was the kind of place that promised wooden cabins, campfires, and crisp country air. Exactly what we thought we needed. But the moment we turned off the highway and onto that narrow dirt road, I swear, the forest itself changed. The trees grew taller, the shadows darker, and that strange, heavy silence pressed against the windows as if it wanted in. "Place looks abandoned," Marcus muttered. We laughed it off, but none of us disagreed. The lodge wasn't a single building. Instead, it was a cluster of small wooden cabins surrounding an old reception house. The paint peeled off the siding, and the porch sagged like it had given up hope years ago. But we tried to stay positive. The young woman at reception, Heather, maybe 22, forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes as she handed us our keys. "You guys are in the Birchwood units," she said. "Down the slope. Follow the gravel path." I nodded. "Are there any cabins up here available? These near the main house look perfect for a group." Heather stiffened. Her gaze flicked toward the 3 dark cabins adjacent to the reception house, and for a split second, her face drained of color. "No," she said too quickly. "They're being repaired. Birchwood will be fine." The way she said it, the way her fingers trembled slightly on the keyring. We should have asked more questions. We didn't. The Birchwood cabins were far from the main house, separated by a long slope of thick trees and tall grass. Each cabin was small, almost too small, but we made do. We unpacked, explored the lake, grilled some food, played cards, joked around. For a while, everything felt normal. But the unease never went away. Not completely. As the sun set behind the line of pines, that silence returned. Heavier, stranger, like an unopened secret waiting for someone to touch it. Around 9 p.m., we decided to head back to the reception house to ask about firewood. But when we got there, the lights were off, the door was locked, and the windows reflected nothing but the surrounding woods. "What the hell?" Ben whispered. She said they had staff until midnight. We knocked. We called out. Nothing. It was then, while standing on that porch, that I felt it. A wave of cold air sweeping over the back of my neck. Not the night breeze. Not the chill of autumn. This was different. Sharply cold. Ice cold. The others felt it too. Every one of us shivered at the exact same moment. And then Hannah pointed toward the 3 cabins beside the reception house. The ones Heather insisted were under repair. Their windows were pitch black. But this time, something moved inside one of them. A slow shift of a silhouette. A dark outline drifting past the curtains. Too tall, too still, too wrong. "Did you see that?" Hannah whispered. We didn't answer, because we had all seen it, and none of us wanted to admit it. We hurried back down to Birchwood, trying to shake the feeling, trying to pretend it was nothing. To keep the mood alive, we gathered in our cabin, turned up some music, dealt a new round of cards. We kept laughing, too loud, too forced, because deep down, all of us were afraid of acknowledging the truth. Something about this place wasn't right. Around midnight, one by one we got tired. Instead of heading back to separate cabins, we all stayed in the same one, purely out of convenience, or so we claimed. No one wanted to be alone. Not tonight. We turned off the lights. The room fell into darkness. Outside, the wind rustled the trees, but inside, that cold feeling returned. Thick, pressing, unnatural. I remember drifting off to sleep, and then being jolted awake by the sound of someone gasping, then crying, then screaming. It was Lila. She was lying on the floor, limbs stiff, eyes wide with terror, as if something invisible had pinned her down. Her voice trembled as she sobbed. He was sitting next to you, watching you. Then he came at me, he jumped. We all stared, frozen. What jumped on you? Marcus demanded. Lila's whole body shook violently. A man, but not a man. His eyes were wrong, and he was heavy. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. She choked on her words, and he smiled, right in my face. We didn't sleep again that night. The woods outside creaked and groaned, and every now and then we heard something else. A soft tapping, on the window, on the door, moving from one cabin to the next. Slow, deliberate, searching, as if something, or someone, was walking among the cabins, looking for us. The sun should have brought comfort with it, warmth, light, normalcy. But when morning finally crawled across the tops of the pine trees, nothing felt normal. We sat around the cabin table, eyes dull, skin pale, still shaken by whatever had pinned Lila to the floor the night before. No one mentioned leaving, but no one mentioned staying either. It was as if we were suspended in the kind of fear that made decisions impossible. At 8 a.m. sharp, we climbed back up the slope, determined to confront the receptionist. The morning air was supposed to be crisp and refreshing, but it felt heavy, humid, almost suffocating. When we reached the reception house, the door was open. Heather, the young woman from the day before, stood behind the counter, nervously shuffling papers. She jumped when she saw us. "Oh, you guys are up early," she said, voice too bright, too fake. "Did you need something?" Lila stepped forward, arms crossed. "We want a refund," she said bluntly. "Right now." Heather blinked, confused. "A refund? Why?" Marcus leaned close enough that she had to step back. "Because something is wrong with this place," he growled. "And you know it." Her hands trembled again. Just like last night. Just like she was afraid of something she couldn't name. I don't know what you mean," she stammered. "Nothing is wrong with Pine Hollow." Hannah slammed her palm onto the counter. "Don't lie to us." The force of Hannah's voice made Heather's face collapse, all the composure draining out of her. She swallowed hard, then whispered, I told the manager no one should be in the Birchwood cabins." We froze. The room went still. "What?" I asked. Heather's eyes darted toward the 3 dark cabins near the main house, the ones she'd refused to give us. "They're safer," she said softly. "Birchwood isn't." A chill slipped down my spine. "Why?" I asked. She didn't answer. At least, not with words. Instead, she lifted her hand and pointed toward the window that looked down the slope toward our cabins. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Because he stays down there." Before we could press her, a voice boomed from the hallway. "Heather!" A middle-aged man in a worn suit marched out, clearly the manager. His tone was sharp, scolding, desperate. "We've talked about this," he hissed. "No stories. No rumors. You'll scare guests." Heather's chin wobbled. She didn't look at him. She looked at us. And in her eyes, there was terror. Real. Raw. Alive. Marcus stepped toward the manager. "We're not staying another night," he said. "Refund us and we're out." The manager glanced between all 6 of us, the dark circles, the paleness, the fear, and exhaled slowly. "Fine," he said. "I'll process it." He walked behind the counter, grumbling under his breath. Heather watched him go, then leaned forward and whispered urgently, "Please, leave before sunset. Don't stay here tonight. Don't stay anywhere near the woods." The way she said it, not as a warning, but as a plea. We didn't argue. Within minutes, we grabbed our bags and hurried out the door. But as we crossed the porch, Heather followed us out, eyes filled with guilt. "That girl last year," she murmured. "The one they said hung herself in cabin 2. We stopped. Every one of us." "She didn't," Heather said quietly. "She was trying to run. She said someone was following her inside the cabin. She kept saying she wasn't alone." Her voice cracked. "She said she could hear a man breathing behind her bed every night." A tremor crept up my arms. "And then what?" I whispered. Heather shook her head. "She died trying to get out, not trying to die." She stepped backward toward the reception door, lowering her eyes. "I shouldn't be telling you this, but someone has to." Then she looked straight at me. "He chooses one person, just one. Someone who catches his attention." Her gaze flicked to Lila, who instantly stiffened. "Did he touch you?" Heather whispered. Lila's lip trembled. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Heather closed her eyes like she expected that answer. Then she said a final sentence. 6 words that lodged themselves deep into my bones. "If he touched you, he follows you." We left Pine Hollow Retreat in absolute silence. The gravel crunched beneath our boots as we walked down the slope. The wind stirred in the trees. Leaves fluttered softly across the ground. It should have been peaceful. Instead, every step felt watched, observed, measured. And as we paused beside the birchwood cabins to gather our bags, Lila froze. Not just froze, turned slowly, staring at the cabin window. Her breath hitched, her hand lifted, trembling violently, pointing. We all looked, and the blood drained from our faces, because behind the dusty glass, pressed against the inside of the window, was the outline of a hand, large, too large, and slowly, deliberately, it dragged downward across the glass, leaving long streaks in the dust. We grabbed Lila. We grabbed our bags. We ran. We didn't care if we looked insane. We didn't look back, not once, until we reached the parking lot near the main road. But when we finally turned, there was no one at the window, no handprint, no movement, just the old, weathered cabin, and the heavy, watching silence. We climbed into the SUV. Marcus started the engine, but before he could pull away, a figure stepped out of the tree line across the road. Tall, wrong, shadowed. He stood perfectly still, facing us, his head tilted, just slightly, like he was studying us, like he was memorizing us. Lila's breath caught painfully in her throat. "That's him," she whispered. "That's the man who was on me." Marcus slammed the gas pedal. The SUV lurched forward. The figure didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't turn, simply watched us go, until he disappeared behind the curve of the road. We didn't stop driving until the lodge was 20 miles behind us. But deep inside, all of us felt it. That strange, cold pressure, that crawling awareness, that sense of being, followed, not by footsteps, not by sounds, but by something quieter, heavier, closer. By the time we reached the nearest small town, Lila was shaking uncontrollably. "He's not gone," she whispered. "I can still feel him. He's still here." And the worst part, we believed her. The town seemed ordinary. Small shops, quiet streets, the kind of place where everyone knew your name, or at least thought they did. But for us, it felt wrong. Every corner we turned, every shadow that flickered across the windows. It wasn't the town, it was him. We checked into a cheap motel on Main Street. The kind of place where the neon sign buzzes, the floor creaks, and the smell of old carpets hits your nose the second you step inside. Marcus tried to make jokes. Hannah tried to distract herself scrolling through her phone. I kept staring out the window, because every time I did, I could see the tree line. Even miles away from Pine Hollow, that black line of pines seemed to follow us. Watching, waiting, and Lila, she didn't sleep. She couldn't. She spent hours sitting on the edge of the bed, hands trembling, whispering, "I can feel him. I can hear him in the corners. He's just there." I didn't want to believe her. I tried not to, but the unease settled in my chest like a stone I couldn't swallow. Night came anyway. The kind of night that smells of wet asphalt and decaying leaves. The kind of night where even the street lamps look uneasy. We turned on the TV. Static, flickering images, unfamiliar channels. Then, a soft knock on the motel window. Just a tap. Soft, deliberate. Not a branch in the wind. Marcus laughed. Probably just a kid. But even as he said it, he glanced at the dark tree line and froze. Lila screamed. Not a normal scream. Something that cut through the air. Something that came from a place deeper than fear. And when we looked, there was a face, peering from behind the trees across the street. A shadowed man, tall, wrong. Everything about him made the world shift just slightly off balance. And then, he was gone. We called the local police. At least we tried. The receptionist at the station laughed. "Sir, what exactly are you reporting?" "Someone in the woods." We explained. Told them everything. The cabin. The manager. The girl who died. The man who followed. The officer's face changed. "Pine Hollow," he said slowly. "You shouldn't even be talking about that place." "What do you mean?" Marcus demanded. He leaned closer, lowered his voice. "People don't go there and come back the same. If they come back at all." We pressed. We needed answers. But all he said was, "Stay away. Keep driving. Don't stop for anything along Highway 47 after dark." We drove. We drove all night. The highway stretched like a ribbon of black silk into the horizon. Every mile, every bend. We thought we'd escaped, but I kept seeing it. The tree line. At first just shadows, then shapes, then a figure. At the side of the road, just standing, watching. We swerved. Marcus cursed. The figure vanished. But the feeling, that feeling of being hunted, stayed. Lila refused to close her eyes. She clutched my arm, shaking. "He's here," she whispered. "He never left. He's always behind us, watching, waiting, and soon, he'll pick again." I wanted to tell her it was a nightmare. I wanted to tell her it was over. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. By sunrise, we found a diner. A greasy spoon where the coffee was thick and black, and the walls were decorated with faded photos of people no one remembered. We tried to eat. We tried to laugh. We tried to convince ourselves that maybe, just maybe, it had been the forest, the isolation, our imagination. But every time the door opened, or the wind rattled the windows, we flinched, and I knew we weren't safe. Because Pine Hollow didn't just stay in the woods. It followed you, inside you, watching you from shadows, whispering in the corners of your mind. That night, we stayed in motels farther down the highway. Rooms that cost too much money. Rooms with bars on the windows and locks on the doors. Still, we heard it. A low, dragging sound. Like footsteps that shouldn't exist. And then, a soft knock. Tap, tap, tap. Lila pressed her face into the pillow. Hannah pulled the blanket over her head. Marcus paced. And I stared out the window, waiting. Because I knew, eventually, he would show himself. And when he did, we wouldn't be ready. The fear wasn't in the shadows. It wasn't in the trees. It wasn't even in the figure that haunted us. It was in the silence between moments. The emptiness that stretched when you thought you were alone. The awareness that somewhere, something watched. And it didn't blink. It didn't breathe. It just waited. We thought leaving Pine Hollow meant leaving him behind. We were wrong. By the time we reached the outskirts of another small town, the sky was a bruised purple, fading into black. The kind of black that swallows headlights whole. The kind of black that makes you question every sound. Lila refused to speak. Her lips quivered, eyes wide, scanning every shadow. Marcus kept the radio on, hoping music would drown out the silence. Hannah held her phone like a shield, scrolling aimlessly, pretending nothing was happening. And I drove. I drove because stopping felt like surrender. Stopping felt like giving him the chance to catch us. The first sign that we weren't alone came from the trees. A whisper, soft, faint, almost like the wind brushing against the branches. But not the wind. It said my name. I froze. The hairs on my neck stood straight up. I blinked. The whisper came again. And then another voice. Lila's. Don't turn around. We all turned instinctively. Nothing. Just the road. Just the dark. But the feeling lingered. Like a shadow pressed against our backs. Like invisible eyes following every movement. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time didn't exist the way it normally did. Every town we passed was empty. Every street light flickered or died. Every motel we stopped at had signs saying, no vacancy, even though we were alone on the road. Then, the sound started, dragging, slow, rhythmic, coming from just outside the car. Marcus insisted it was raccoons or deer. Hannah said it was the wind. Lila, she knew better. It's him, she whispered. The one from Pine Hollow. He's always there, waiting, watching, and when we sleep, he moves closer. I tried to laugh, but the sound caught in my throat, because every instinct told me she was right. We stopped at a gas station, a lonely one on the edge of nowhere. The kind of place where fluorescent lights buzz and the air smells of gasoline and fear. Lila refused to get out. Marcus and I stepped onto the cracked pavement. The pump rattled under our hands. The clerk behind the counter smiled, too wide, too still. No greeting, no words, just eyes that followed us. And then, the lights went out. Total darkness. I heard it before I saw it. The soft, deliberate footsteps coming from behind the pumps. Not running, not fast. Just there. We turned. Nothing. But then, a shadow stretched across the concrete. Tall. Wrong. We bolted. Back to the car. Hannah screamed as we slammed the doors. The engine roared to life. And I drove. Without looking back. The whispers continued. Soft voices calling names we didn't want to hear. Laughs that didn't belong to any human. The rustling of the trees outside. No longer ordinary. We could hear branches tapping against the car, although no wind blew. We could hear footsteps pacing the sides, though no one walked. And then, the first touch. A cold hand, or something like it, brushed the back of my neck. I jerked forward. Lila screamed. Marcus swore. Hannah covered her ears. The road stretched endlessly. We didn't recognize any landmarks. It was as if the world had been erased behind us. And ahead, only darkness. Hours, or maybe it was a night stretched across eternity, passed. The whispering grew louder, closer. Every mile, every bend, the air thickened, heavy with something unnatural. The shadows in the woods shifted, and in each shift, we glimpsed him. The man, tall, faceless, sometimes with eyes too sharp, too knowing, staring right into your soul. And we realized, terrifyingly, that he wasn't walking. He didn't move like humans. He appeared and disappeared, like the darkness itself breathed him out. Lila finally spoke. "I saw her," she said, barely a whisper. "Another girl, just like the girl in the cabin. She didn't make it. She tried to run, but he doesn't let them go." Marcus laughed, nervously. "Are you telling me this is happening again? That we're next?" She turned her gaze to him, eyes wide, fear raw. He never stops. And in that moment, I understood. We weren't just being hunted. We were trapped in something alive. Something that thrived on fear, on attention, on the dark corners of the mind. By the time dawn threatened to break, we reached the next town. Or maybe it wasn't a town. Maybe it was a mirage. Everything was empty. Shutters down. Streets cracked. The kind of place abandoned decades ago, or maybe never alive at all. We parked the car. We didn't speak. We didn't move. And from the trees, a whisper, "Come back." We froze. It was faint at first, then louder, then all around us. And I realized we had been running in circles. Pine Hollow, the man, the woods, they were everywhere, watching, waiting, and soon he would pick again. We thought reaching the edge of the town meant safety. We were wrong. The streets were silent. No wind, no birds, no sound but the crunch of gravel under our tires as we drove slowly through the ghostly remains. Every building was empty, every window dark, and every shadow seemed wrong. Marcus whispered, "It's like we're inside his world now." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. We all felt it. That suffocating presence that had been following us from Pine Hollow. It was here. Then we saw her. A girl, no older than 12, standing at the edge of the woods, eyes wide, face pale, her hair tangled and matted, clothes torn. Lila gasped. That's her," she whispered. "The one from the cabin. He took her too soon. We wanted to run, to hide, but the car wouldn't start. The engine refused, and the shadows, they moved. Slowly, deliberately, from the darkness between the trees, he emerged. The man, tall, faceless, sometimes with a mouth too wide, teeth too sharp. Eyes, if they existed at all, were black holes that devoured light. And he didn't walk. He glided, silently, closer. Hannah screamed, "Run!" But there was nowhere to run. The streets had twisted, the roads unfamiliar, as if the town itself was alive, reshaping to trap us. We froze. The girl behind us, she whispered, "He's coming for the last one." I realized with a chill that the last one meant me. Or maybe Marcus or Lila. The shadow didn't choose at random. It fed on fear and attention. The whispering came again, soft at first, then louder, all around. My name. Don't look. Stay still. We covered our ears, but it was impossible to escape. It was inside our minds now. And then he touched Lila. Just a finger. Cold. Deadly cold. She didn't scream. Her eyes rolled back, and she slumped. Marcus and I lunged. But nothing. The air itself refused our hands. It was like trying to grab smoke. I screamed her name, but the man didn't answer. Only the whispering, growing, endless. Hannah ran. I ran after her, but the streets twisted. Corners turned into walls, and we were separated. I found myself alone in a dark alley. The smell of wet leaves and decay filled my nostrils. A faint light flickered at the end. There she was, the girl, standing with a hand outstretched. "Follow me," she said, her voice not entirely her own. I hesitated. The shadows moved behind her. He was there, always there. She led me to the edge of the woods. The trees, alive. Branches bending unnaturally. Whispers screaming inside my head. And then, the truth. The man wasn't human. He had never been. He was the darkness itself. A fragment of the forest. A remnant of the fear that had always lived in Pine Hollow and spread across the land. He didn't just hunt. He collected souls, memories, fear. Each town he touched became a mirror of his hunger. Each victim, a story he kept alive in the shadows. I realized then, the girl, Lila, Marcus, Hannah, they were all parts of it now. Pieces he held to keep me in line. I ran. I ran through the twisted paths of the woods. Branches clawed at my face. Whispers begged me to stop. Promises of safety, lies. Then I saw the clearing. A cabin, old, familiar, the place where it had begun. And I understood. The cycle would never end. Pine Hollow wasn't a place. It was a trap, a loop, and I had stepped right into it. The girl appeared again. "Do not fight," she whispered. "Do not resist." I froze. The man, the shadow, emerged from the trees. Closer now, his face shifting. Sometimes Lila's, sometimes Marcus, sometimes Hannah's. He smiled, a horrible, impossibly wide grin, and I knew the last part of me would be gone soon. I tried to scream. Nothing came, and then a voice. Not mine, not his. A new voice, calm, commanding. "Leave him," it said, and the shadow froze. The trees shook violently. The darkness recoiled, and for the first time, it faltered. The girl took my hand, and together we ran. Through the trees, through the shadows. We didn't look back. We woke hours later, or maybe days, in a clearing near a real town. Sunlight poured through the trees. Birds sang. The air, alive, clean. But we knew we had survived. For now. Because somewhere in Pine Hollow, or somewhere in the quiet woods of America, He waits, waiting, watching, and the whispers, they will never stop.